This is day 2 of the Vermont Overland Rally. Maybe 2.5, depending on how you look at it. We got here Thursday afternoon, Saturday today. A little rainy today. Yesterday was decent, had a little bit of cloud cover, but didn't rain. Trails are a little more slippery today.
If you hadn't noticed yet, most of our wheeling on Saturday was either following the course of a river or actually driving on a road that is the river. Hence, the title of this day was Rivers of Gold, which will make more sense in a second. At the end of this road, we ended up coming to what is known as the historic Plymouth Five Corners area. Now, this was a marked destination on our map, so of course we decided to check it out since it was right around the corner. As it turns out, Five Corners was once a bustling community in the early 1800s, and remained so until the turn of the century. Plymouth Five Corners was named for the 5 roads that form a junction in the town of Plymouth, where several small streams converged to create Broadbrook. Many industries once thrived within this town, including saw and grist mills, chair stock, and butter tub factories. A blacksmith shop, the Glen Household Toll, and the School No. 3, which were also located here, and approximately 60 children were in regular attendance of the school. Then in 1855, William Hankerson found gold in the waters of Buffalo Brook. The Civil War, however, stalled a lot of the mining, and over the course of the next 60 to 80 years or so, the supply of gold slowly dwindled, and so did the community that was around the Plymouth Five Corners area. So, now it is what you see here. Just a remnant of what it used to be, and a sign that has a couple pictures and markings of what was once here. Now, while we were here, we also happened to meet an older couple who were out hunting. They apparently live up here in Plymouth part-time, and were drawn here to pan for gold in the river that is running along this road to your left, which you can kind of see. And if you're driving along this road, and if you pay close attention, well, actually you don't even have to pay close attention if you're driving on the road, it stands out like a sore thumb, is there are just groups of people all along the side of this river panning for gold. So anyways, this old couple came up here to do just that. They lived in the Boston area, and then decided to buy some land up in Vermont and pan for gold. So they did that, and have recently built themselves a cabin on their property, so they have a place to stay as opposed to campers and whatnot. But that happened to be something interesting we came upon in our journeys. The next section of road that we decided to take on was a mix of blue and red. And as it turns out, that this road that we were following actually seems to follow the course of a small stream/river. Right now, which is a small stream, but come springtime, we figure this probably is a pretty significant river or stream, depending on how you look at it. Just because of the snow melt coming down from the hills would probably be pretty decent. And if you're wondering, the Class 4 roads are only open from, I think, April until December or November, mostly due to the fact that they're completely unmaintained. Nobody comes out here to plow them or anything, and as it turns out, almost all of these actually turn into snowmobile trails come wintertime. So the road had some decent technical sections with some breaks in the middle, but for me the most interesting part about it was the fact that we're driving up a river, and the nice technical sections that have become exposed over the years from the river flowing over it. And of course, because it had rained the night before and a little bit in the morning, there was some mud to trudge through. Nothing too spectacular, no huge mud bogs that we had to go through, but there were a few pretty muddy spots that we had to traverse. But like I said, nothing too major. Nobody got stuck. We were just able to pass on through like nothing was out of the ordinary. Then, of course, we had our only trail catastrophe, air quotes, of the entire trip. As it turns out, my rear bumper loosened up a little bit.
What happened?
Oh, it loosened slightly. So with that taken care of, we were able to continue on our way. All I had to do was retighten the right side of the bumper, and everything was good to go.
The second covered bridge of the trip here in Perkinsville, Vermont. Just happened to see it while we're driving by.
Looks like somebody knew how to have fun on these. There's a bunch of burnout marks in here.
Nice. Wonder if they took it apart and put it back together.
I don't know. If
Like all the markings.
They messed it up a couple times. This one too.
Yeah. Kind of smells like it's been pretty freshly pressure treated. Looks like the bridge goes over the Black River. It must have been pretty recently rebuilt. Abutment on this end's poured concrete. It's pretty fresh. That end's just stacked fieldstone.
That night, we decided to just buy some pizza from one of the food vendors that was in attendance, which turned out to be very good. After that, we kind of hung around down there for a while, checked out some of the other vendors, and talked to a couple people here and there. And then after that, they had started to play a movie, at which point we went back up the hill to our campsite, started a fire, had a few beers, talked with our neighbors for a little bit. And here what you're seeing is part of the party that was going on down below. One of the friends of the Vermont Overland Rally, I guess you could call it, was making a bunch of food and whatnot, and had this enormous light bar set up on his Toyota Tacoma, which you can't really tell, unfortunately, in the video that I was taking here, but it lit up the entire tree and a pretty good area around him, which is pretty interesting to see, but, unfortunately didn't come across on the camera all too well. But that night was fairly quiet, except, of course, for some more coyotes, but nothing else. Then, of course, there's Sunday morning, which was pretty simple, because all we had to do was take down our camp and then get rid of our last load of trash. Breakfast was fairly simple again, just like the previous 2 mornings. We did eggs. This time we did bacon with it, however. We did wake up to some rain and some drizzle, so that made taking down the camp a little bit annoying, I guess, because the canopy was wet and the tent was wet, and of course everything we had left outside was wet, which was just the camp stove and the sign we're using as a table, so we had to, dry all that off and clean it anyways. But everything went pretty well. Now, for one last hurrah, we decided to take a drive up Mount Ascutney. Now, it just so happened that we happened to drive right by the entrance to the state park for Mount Ascutney on our way into Redding. So on our way back, we took that same route and decided to head up. Everything seemed to go fine. The trip up went just fine. The Jeep stayed, normal operating temperature, no overheats, no nothing like that. Then our trip back down was just as easy. I dropped it down into first and let the engine do all the braking, which turned out fine. I only had to step on the brake probably, a handful of times, I guess. But it was a nice little cap off to the end of the trip, even if it was really foggy at the top of the mountain. Now, what you're about to see is the result of a pressure difference from within the bumper to being on top of the mountain. It actually was enough to push air out through the screw hole, which I found pretty funny. So that'll conclude the second part of our Vermont Overland Rally trip. As before, be sure to check us out on Facebook. There'll be pictures of this trip, along with links and other interesting things that we post onto Facebook, so be sure to check out the link in the description, like our Facebook page. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of our videos. Leave us a comment below, like the video, and no matter what, get out there and do something.
We're in clouds!